everyone. Thank you for coming to this talk. I'm super excited to be here. First time in Saudi Arabia, and hopefully a lot more opportunities in the future. My name is Funam Bagli, and I flew all the way from San Francisco to talk to you about designing between Earth and space. I am what's called an industrial designer, someone who designs hardware for mass manufacturing. And I also am an aerospace architect. So I design how we live in space, on orbit, on Moon, or on Mars. So I started this company called Nonfiction 7 years ago. And we've been building incredible technologies to benefit people on Earth and in space. So I'm going to start with Earth, and slowly we're going to move to space. So the company that I started is called Nonfiction. And what we do is that we take science fiction and then we make it real. And we do that to create positive impact in the world. And we do that by practicing different disciplines like design and branding, engineering, space architecture, systems design. And really the magic comes from merging all of these disciplines together. And what's really cool about my job is that I get to work with incredible scientists and technologists and business people and artists. And as a designer, what I do is that I merge all of these disciplines together to come up with solutions that are going to create that positive impact that I'm talking about. In terms of positive impact, we require all of our clients to satisfy at least one of the 17 Sustainable Development Goals put together by the United Nations. So ending poverty and making sure that health and wellness is supported and education is available for everyone and that we have renewable energy available in many places as possible. But all of this is about meaningful innovation. Because innovation without meaning, without impact, to me, is useless. So I'm going to go through 6 projects today, starting on Earth and ending in space, that really illustrates the why behind everything that we practice. Everything that we design is very unique. Unique in the way it looks, unique in the way it's being used, and unique in how it influences industries. So this first example is human headphones. I would like for you to look at all the technology you have around you. A lot of these technologies have straight lines. They have like perfect radii on the corner. They have flat surfaces. They have LCD or LED screens, right? They have buttons. They have LED lights blinking. But when you look at nature, and the human body is nature, we are natural bodies, you have none of those things. We're not made of straight lines. We don't have blinking lights. We don't have buttons. We have very very curvaceous lines that go in contrast with the technology that we design. So this particular product is a pair of headphones that is really an extension of the human body. And it has this perfect balance of shape, of geometry. It just fits in the palms of your hands and it fits on your ears beautifully. And you can see here, it attaches to each ear independently. It's actually the first true wireless headphones that on the ear. It also translates in 11 languages as you go, including Arabic. And then it's really, an ode to natural design. So I really want you to start thinking about the future of technology, again, as an extension of the human body. How does it fit each and every one of us individually? And fitting is very difficult because traditionally fitting electronic components into shapes is much easier when the shapes are flat or rectangular or circular. But when they're very organic, like the geometry that's necessary to fit the human ear, it becomes very complex. And we're going to come back to that collaboration. Collaborating is essential in the work that I do. I could not have worked on this project without collaborating with electrical engineers and firmware engineers, mechanical engineers, acoustic engineers, designers like myself, and people who do strategy. So one thing I like to give as a contrast between the 20th and the 21st century is that in the 20th century, everybody worked in silos. If you were a scientist, you stayed with scientists. You wrote white papers, and then you tried to get published, and that was the end of it, right? And then if you're a technologist, you stay with technologists. Business people, the same thing. Designers, the same thing. And really what's important here is to create these wonderful connections that otherwise would not happen. And that's how we can come up with technologies that are so new and so novel like this one. Another technology that was used to make this product possible was 3D printing. What we did is that we created prototypes to fit human ears. And if you look around, you look at different human ears, there are small ones, and there are big ones, and fat ones, and uneven ones. And then working a geometry that works for more than 90% of adult human ears was incredibly difficult. But it was possible with advanced 3D modeling and 3D printing. And you can see here, even if you have big hair, you can still wear those. The second project I'd like to cover has to do with neuroscience. I get to work with the top-notch neuroscientists in the world. I'm based in San Francisco. UC San Francisco is right there. Stanford, UC Berkeley, we work with all of these people. And so what this product does is that it stimulates your primary motor cortex. And why would you do that? Your primary motor cortex is where a lot of the information of how your body moves is worked out, right? If you are running jogging in the morning, for example, the first 5 minutes that you're running, you're gonna hate it. You're like, why am I here? This is very unpleasant, I wanna end now. But after like about 10, 15 minutes, you start getting what's called a state of flow. You're not thinking about putting one foot in front of the other, and you start experiencing the pleasure of running. And so this device, in the form of a headphones, that's exactly what it takes you to very quickly. So you wear it for about 20 minutes, and then for the next 4 hours, everything that you learn physically, you will get there faster. And here you can see the USA team of cycling using in their training. Because if you really think about it, the difference between a silver medal and a gold medal at the Olympics is probably not talent, it's technology. So developing technologies like this that enhance the body, but also uses the natural functionalities of the body at the same time, is really how we get all those gold medals. And you can see it works with an app. Another thing that was very interesting about this product is that we wanted to make it available to everyone. So there's a lot of devices like this that can help athletes in labs, and they're quite expensive, right? $5,000, $10,000, $20,000. A lot of people cannot afford them, but athletes will invest in them because they want to win. But now, if you go to the gym, if you want to learn to do dance, if you want to learn to play the piano or the guitar, because all of these activities require physical movement, you can actually get there faster by using this device. Next, we're going to talk about something very deep and emotional for all of us: sleep. Who here sleeps well every night? Very few hands, but they do exist. But most of us experience bad quality sleep, right? Insomnia in extreme cases. And in other cases, we wake up once in a while at night and really disturb our sleep patterns. So here we developed this product with professors and research assistants at UC Berkeley. And this is a product called Somni. And what Somni does is that it does two things. The top part of the product stimulates the prefrontal cortex. And what it does is that it essentially tells your brain how to fall asleep. When the brain falls asleep, when you're dozing off and your eyes are falling asleep, like something that happens a lot in front of Netflix, what's happening is that there's a very specific brain wave patterns that happens before. And so this device applies that same patterns to your brain, and then for the rest of the night, you can take it off, and your brain knows what to do. A healthy night of sleep goes through 4 phases. We're going to call them N1, N2, N3, and deep sleep. And a good night's sleep goes through these 4 phases 4 or 5 times in a row. uninterrupted. So all of us would like to experience good sleep. But in order to get there, we need our brain to know how to fall asleep. And then one thing that's pretty wonderful about this product is that you can still keep your terrible bad habits, scrolling on Instagram for hours, reading a book that's very exciting. It is so effective that you can continue doing these things and you will still experience 8 hours of sleep. Another example of how effective this product is, one of our employees at Nonfiction is an older lady, and she had been experiencing insomnia for most of her life. Could not sleep more than 3 or 4 hours in a row, interrupted every night, and woke up early every morning. And she was really hungry for that good night's sleep. She became a beta tester for this device. And then on night 2, she was able to experience 8 hours of sleep. Not only 8 hours of sleep, but an hour and a half deep sleep and an hour and a half REM sleep. It's exceptional sleep. So hopefully you get to try it. The next one is super exciting to me. So this is a new client, and what they're developing is telemedicine, but fun, right? I don't know if any of you have ever seen the movie Inner Space. So it's a movie from, I think, 1987 with Dennis Quaid, where he's in a machine and he becomes this microscopic scale human that goes into another human's body. And so essentially, the CEO of this company saw that movie at 6 years old and realized that, well, why not? Why can't we create a pill that you can swallow that goes through your body? Now, the pill is started at that size. This is not the end size. The end size is about like this. We're working to make it a little bit smaller. Right now, the pill is 12 millimeter in diameter. And what this pill does is that it has a camera on it. And the camera has a ring of light around it, and it has propellers. And then the amazing thing that it does is that someone somewhere, let's say in Saudi Arabia, will swallow that camera, and then a doctor on the other side of the planet will use a game controller to control where the pill goes into their body and diagnose them with stomach cancer or ulcer or anything like that. So it's a very exciting way to look into telemedicine. And we actually made a video about how exciting this technology is. So this is going to be 60 seconds.
The inspiration actually began earlier in life. We went to see this movie called Inner Space. You just sort of assume when you're young and you see stuff like that it's real in some way, or that it will be real in some way. The question we ask is, could we maybe turn a couple of months of visits to the hospital into a Zoom call? Our dream of creating a pill bot is kind of beginning to become more and more real. What you see right here is kind of where we are right now. And what is it going to look like in the future? Like, do we make it smaller? Maybe it could be like the 2001 space pod with the little robot arms that come out. Pillbot is now micro-sized. It's in your brain, and we might be able to catch things like cancers like tens of years before you might otherwise catch them. So here's to the future of telemedicine.
Isn't that cool? All right, now let's jump into fires. I live in San Francisco, which is in the state of California. California in the last few years has experienced incredible, really, really bad wildfires. And then who goes into these wildfires? Firefighters. So visibility when you're firefighters is primordial. And then when you enter a home, it's usually full of smoke. And it's very, very hard for these people to find who's unconscious, who's stuck in a corner of the house, or run out of the building before it's too late. So in order to do that, we have co-developed this product that has an AR lens in front of one eye, a thermal camera outside of the oxygen mask, and then it can help firefighters see through smoke in real time. It uses 5G technology, and you can see the difference on the left and the right. Typically, this is what a firefighter sees, and with this technology, they can see what's on the right. It is so effective that it can shave off 15 to 20 seconds the time it takes for a firefighter to pull out a person out of a burning building. So that can save the people's lives, but also the firefighter's life. And so we've developed this product. It was really fun to do. And one thing that's very interesting with working with firefighters or anybody who's been trained to do things a certain way is that there's a huge mistrust in technology, right? If their technology that they're using, the life depends on it, they will have an immediate distrust for it. So we had to work very closely with them and really show them the true benefit of using this kind of technology. And then thankfully, California firefighters are starting to adopt it. Now is the last project. So this is about space. So I talked a lot about different aspects of life, right? I talked about sleep. I talked about safety. I talked about telemedicine. And I'd like to jump into space. So the image you see here is the International Space Station. It's up in the sky right now. And this is, as you can see, there's a lot of stuff everywhere. When you're floating in microgravity, there's no up, there's no down. But on top of that, the International Space Station has been up there for about 22 years. So there's been an accumulation of stuff everywhere, right? Imagine yourself, if you're not a trained astronaut, to live aboard the ISS. Living in this environment would be, one, very terrible, but also extremely dangerous. Another image of the International Space Station, this is how people work out. If you don't work out living for a long time in microgravity, you will suffer the effects of stress, of isolation, of microgravity, loss of bone mass, muscle atrophy, and a lot of very different terrible effects on your body. So you don't want that. In order to prevent that, you have to work out about 2 hours a day, every day you are up there. Sleeping in space is awful, although there's a small subset of astronauts who actually like sleeping in space. But for the most part, it's pretty awful because there's no gravity pushing your body against the mattress. And so, and also there's no privacy. Up aboard the International Space Station, you experience about 16 sunrises and sunsets a day. So imagine what that does to your circadian rhythm. And so thinking about the technology I talked about earlier, the sleep band that helps your brain fall asleep, what could that do to astronauts up there? Because astronauts today, for the most part, are professional astronauts or people who go up there just for a few days. But I truly believe that the vast majority of us will have the opportunity to go to space at some point in our lives. And none of us want to live in these conditions. And so other things that we do in space is that we can do some research. So I did this project with Orbital University, with ISS US National Lab, and the World Design Organization. And the idea of Orbital University is to create parallel labs in universities on Earth and in space. So you have the advantage of comparing results with Earth gravity and in microgravity. You can also test in very cold temperatures since space is so cold up there. So this is what it looks like. So imagine you have this spacecraft that has 3 rings, one focused on STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math. Another ring that's focused on the humanities, and the third ring that's focused on social sciences. And then these 3, big branches of universities are going to be very helpful for us to understand how humans live and survive and thrive in space, so we can resettle on the moon and continue all the way to Mars and perhaps beyond. A couple years ago, NASA, the Canadian Space Agency, and Methuselah Foundation put together a competition called the Deep Space Food Challenge. And the Deep Space Food Challenge was all about figuring out what and how we're going to feed astronauts going to Mars. So Mars is going to be about 6 to 9 months to go there, and then you have to stay there for a year and a half, and then 6 to 9 months back. So imagine for 2.5 to 3 years, you have to work and live with the same 4 or 5 people. How are we going to eat together? So this is what we eat aboard the ISS right now. It's a lot of pre-made food or dry tortillas and things like that. And you will also have freeze-dried food that you rehydrate like so. So this is Commander Hatfield aboard the ISS rehydrating a packet of spinach, right? That can be fun to eat for about 4 or 5 days, and it gets really old really quickly. So what my team did is that we created this space culinary lab. It's really a kitchen where you can, explore different ways of preparing, growing, and eating food up in space. And it works in microgravity, which is quite interesting. Another thing that's very interesting about space is that we don't have the luxury of an endless faucet of water. We have to recycle water, air, and other resources constantly. So creating all of that technology in space in an extremely sustainable way is going to be very beneficial for us to develop all of this on Earth. And then we created prototypes, growing food on the left, and then on the right we were growing microalgae. Microalgae is being shown to be quite beneficial at protecting the body from dangerous levels of radiation. Going to space, the farther you go from Earth, the more dangerous the levels are. So we want to make sure that they have access to not only good food, but also protective food. Here you have a little view on our aeroponic garden, which we created on an arc to make sure that they could grow in different angles. And so we also experimented with the food, right? Like mixing different types of textures and flavors and food to make sure that the astronauts really enjoy themselves up there, because we can't pre-make all the food that they're going to eat up there. They will have to have some fresh food that they grow there, some things that are very condensed in nutrition, and some food for fun. And then lastly, what would be a long trip without barbecue? Unfortunately, fire is frowned upon in space. You can't really do that up there. So we decided to use lasers instead by applying carbohydrate on top of protein, like chicken, or you can use vegetables if you want to, and then you apply whatever pattern of grill you have on top. So anyway, these are just a few examples of the pretty wonderful things that I do on Earth and in space. And really, to repeat, really my goal here is to develop technology on Earth so we can bring it up to space, and develop technology in space so we can bring it back to Earth. And that circle is where I'd like to invite all of you, right? Technologies that's being developed every day for smart cities, for healthcare, for education. We have to export all of them into space and learn how they work in extreme environments. So if you like what you heard today, you can go on YouTube, and we have a whole series where we explain how we design and how we think about the future to make it available to every single one of you, because we need more people to think innovatively about building a beautiful tomorrow. Thank you so much.